Hello and welcome. I'm here today with the Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025. This is one of Lenovo's undoubtedly most popular gaming laptops of the last few years. This one here in 2025 has gone through a bit of a redesign. We'll talk about what those changes mean for you. We'll also talk about the new RTX 5000 GPU, which is now equipped in this laptop for 2025. This one here has the RTX 5070. We'll talk about that and whether DLSS, the latest generation of DLSS 4 and multi-frame generation, actually brings enough of a warrant to upgrade from last year's 2024 models for the RTX 4000 generation. So let's jump in here and see what the Legion 5 for 2025 equipped with the RTX 5070 and multi-frame generation can do for your gaming experience. And just as a quick disclaimer, this laptop was provided to me for review by a very special friend, so thank you very much. You know who you are. And of course, everything you'll hear in this video will be entirely my own opinion. No one has seen this content beforehand or had any sort of input on what I have to say. Also, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss future uploads. If you're thinking about picking up anything I review, check out the affiliate links in the description below. They help support the channel at no extra cost to you, and I often try to provide discount codes wherever possible. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description. It's a small gesture, but that makes a big difference for independent creators like me. Alright, as I mentioned, the Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025 featuring the AMD CPU has actually been redesigned for 2025. So let's talk about these design changes. We still have this kind of extrusion here for the camera housing and for the webcam body up top. Most of the changes I believe are actually around the back. If you can see here that we have this nice grille pattern that's been really newly redesigned for 2025, and that means that as a result most of the exhausts come out of the back and no more ports on the rear of this device. This was kind of a signature and a hallmark that we had come to know the Lenovo Legion devices for over the last few years. However, I believe that that era has now come to an end. That said, we have a little bit of a recessed hinge here, so akin to what we saw with the Alienware devices of years past. We have a little bit of a forward set hinges here for the actual display to give plenty of cooling material, and obviously there's copper heat pipes and heat sinks and stuff inside here. This one, since it's a 5070, does not actually include a vapor chamber. Let's talk about the port situation as well. As I mentioned, they've all moved around to the sides here. There's a few ports on the left and there's a few ports on the right hand side of this device. So we'll start by looking at it from the left hand side. Here we have the square plug proprietary Lenovo connector for power. We have an HDMI 2.1 port. We have two USB Type-C ports. Of course, because this is AMD, this is not going to be Thunderbolt 4. However, one of these has power delivery and the other one is just a USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, I believe, at 10 gigabits per second. We also have here a USB Type-A port. This one is also USB 3.2 Gen 2, I believe. All the ports are 10 gigabits per second from what I understand. On the right hand side here, we have a full-size Ethernet jack. This is the flip down variety. It is facing down, so I guess that's a little bit of a hindrance. I prefer them to be facing up. Easier to insert the jack and to remove that way, generally speaking. We do have a kill switch here for the webcam, so that's nice to see always. Thank you for that, Lenovo. This one is a electronic shutter switch. However, it's better than no shutter switch. We have also here two USB type A ports here. These are not 10 gigabits per second. I believe these are only 5. They're meant to be for peripherals, mouse, etc., and external keyboard, etc. And finally, we have a headphone microphone combo jack, and that pretty much rounds out the port offerings from the Lenovo Legion 5. Now, if we flip this thing over and take a look, you can see here that we've got very, comparatively speaking, much taller feet. They're very high compared to what we've seen in the years past. This is kind of what I've seen from the Omen Max this year. Also, the Razer blades have, very high rubber feet like this, and some MSI models as well to allow lots of space for cooling. And of course, we have two grills here for the speakers, one on either side. So pretty typical two down-firing speakers. They don't sound that great, but of course, in a pinch, you can certainly get by with them, and they're going to be able to perform when you need them to. Now, one-hand opening is quite easy because it's very well weighted and nicely balanced. If we flip up here, we've got a nice sizable trackpad here, good tactile feedback. Maybe a little bit rattly perhaps in the extreme corners, but otherwise, pretty good. This is a Mylar surface. Lenovo likes to use these pretty much typically across most of their laptop lineup, whether they're Legion or other series as well. So same materials here. We do get a little bit of smudging and, oils from your fingers here will start to show, but nothing that a little bit of a wipe with a lid-free cloth cannot solve. And we have here, of course, the typical Lenovo style keyboard with the smiley keys here. This one, of course, is a single zone RGB. If you get the Legion 7 you will get per key RGB, but alas, that's a compromise that has to be made. And of course, we also get here the function Q toggle here to toggle between the different performance mode, very typical of Legions over the last few years, and nicely that that's remained and is being carried forward for 2025. The Legion 5 is well equipped in terms of the display department. We can see here very little backlight bleed on this IPS display. However, certain models are available with OLED. This is a 16-inch 1600p that's Quad HD Plus display at 500 nits of brightness and 240 Hz in terms of refresh rate. It is not G-Sync enabled. However, VRR is available. We can see here that one hand opening is a breeze thanks to the even weight distribution, and with 500 nits it gets plenty bright and plenty dim for all of your viewing needs, whether you're content editing, content creating, viewing, or you're actually gaming on this particular display. I like the fact that the IPS displays have remained consistent over the last few years with the Lenovo Legions. And of course, at 240 Hz refresh rate, you can see with the UFO test here that we're getting pretty good motion rate behavior here, which means you're going to have a great time whether you're playing multiplayer or your slow-paced RPG games. Let's briefly talk specs here on the Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025. This is the AMD edition, so we'll start out here with the AMD CPU. We've got an AMD Ryzen 9 8945HX. Now this one has 16 cores and 32 threads, so more than plenty of horsepower for gaming and any kind of other workloads that you could be able to throw at this thing. So this is the one of the Zen 4 family, circa 2024. Very, very fast chip, can boost over 5.4 gigahertz at max speeds. Nominally though, during gaming, you'll see this around the 5 gigahertz mark, 4900, a little bit over 5000 megahertz. So it's very, very fast CPU. And of course, it is paired with, for some reason, slower RAM than I would have expected. We only got 52 megatransfers per second here. I would have at least expected 5600 since we've got SODIMMs on here and we can upgrade the memory. But alas, this is the installed memory that I have in this machine here. So you can always, of course, upgrade it later yourself to 5600 megahertz RAM and up to 64 gigabytes of capacity in this particular PC. As for SSD, it's paired with a 1 terabyte Kioxia drive, so it's fast enough. You'll see here, I'll just throw up the crystal disk mark and the crystal disk information, so you can see more particular details about the SSD here. But you do have an additional slot, so you can actually throw in an additional drive to have perhaps as a game drive or storage drive or just as a backup drive for your actual file, so you can leave the operating system isolated and it won't really affect your overall system performance whatsoever. So a pretty powerful and pretty beefy system here. You'll see in the moment here that this thing can actually draw quite a lot of power, and overall the system here can go quite close to 200 watts of overall power here. That's the well-sized power brick that's been supplied by Lenovo for this Legion 5. There's 3 predefined modes here on the Legion 5 for 2025. There's the silent mode, balance, and there's performance mode. And of course, then there's the custom mode where you can go in and set your custom profiles. First thing we'll do here is we'll check the noise levels in the performance mode. That is when you're going to be most likely running and playing games on this PC. So if you look here, we're getting about 50 decibels, which is pretty typical. Depending on kind of where you position it ear level, you're going to get between 47 to 50 decibels of fan noise here. Pretty typical of what you would see from most gaming PCs in a performance or a turbo style mode. Now, if we swap it over to the custom mode here, you can click on the little icon for sliders, go in and adjust the fan curves. If you crank this up to all the way to full fan speed, you'll see here we're getting about 57 decibels of fan noise, and I'll let you listen in to the maximum fan noise and how it sounds with about 10 dBs of boost. And no doubt about it, the Legion 5 runs hot, but that's to be expected considering the power under the hood. And just to say a few words here about the battery life on the Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025. So this one here has an 80 watt hour rechargeable lithium ion battery. It does support rapid charging. You can get about in 10 minutes you can get 30% capacity, or in 30 minutes you can get up to 70% charge. However, it also has battery preserving features that are baked into the Legion space as well. So do go and explore those if you're looking to preserve your overall battery life in the long term. Of Of course, if you put everything into the Windows energy saver mode, which basically turns down the brightness, clocks down the CPU and whatnot, based on what Lenovo's providing as the estimates, you're seeing between 5 to 6 hours of battery life here. However, in my experience and in real-time actual usage, you're going to see more somewhere between 3.5, perhaps 4 hours, depending on actual mixed usage from this PC. Now, keep in mind we do have an AMD CPU in here, which is generally more efficient, but because this GPU here, or excuse me, CPU here, is 16 cores and 32 threads, that's going to consume a lot of power. This is not a low power part. It is a 55-watt nominal CPU, so it's going to consume more energy even when it's idling, and that's something you need to take into consideration. Of course, you do have the ability to charge with USB-C here off the left-hand side. You can plug in up to 100-watt USB Type-C power supply and charge this when you're away from your desk and you're not gaming. Traditionally, the Legion laptops have used the Lenovo Vantage software, which has been across all of Lenovo's stack for administering your PC. But with 2025 and this year with the Legion 5, Lenovo is introducing the Legion Space. This is going to be the new, go-to control software for the actual gaming PCs and in the Legion lineup. So once you get this installed here and you get this open up, it's a lot simpler display. It lands by default on this store page, which looks like having deals and other promotionary discounts on particular games for sale that you can purchase through that store. There's also a game library. There's a tab where you can deal with performance. You can see that there's 4 modes here. The silent, balance, custom, and of course the performance mode as well, which is great for gaming. And in the custom mode, you can still do all of your fan curves, adjust all of your power levels and everything that's present. You have RGB lighting controls here. This is a single zone RGB, but nonetheless you can still deal with the effects and change the color schemes here, although it's a little bit less than what I've seen across HP or other PCs in terms of the gaming support. Now there's these also new features here where it allows you to capture clips or highlights of your game while you're doing gameplay. Kind of a neat feature. This is something that's also built into NVIDIA Replay or also into the NVIDIA overlay as well. So I'm not sure why Legion decided to kind of duplicate this functionality, but here it is nonetheless. So you can go here and tweak these parameters to be able to configure to your heart's content. Of course, the other thing to say here that despite having a new look, the Legion Space still contains all of the functionality that was contained in Lenovo Vantage as it pertains to gaming and control of your software. So we'll see some of that a little bit later as well as we look at the fan curves and talk about performance tuning when you're playing this PC or playing games on this. Despite being equipped with the 5070, it is still only stuck at 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And we know that the 5050 will contain 8 gigabytes of VRAM as well, so I'm a little confused as to what NVIDIA is thinking here with the RTX 5000 generation. You can see here exhibited that the VRAM limit really is starting to show in 2025, particularly for the 70 class GPU. This is not the behavior that I would expect. Of course, when I disabled that and turned the presets down, so we're not in RT overdrive mode, you can see here that now we're starting to see some smearing. Once you do that while you're in the game engine, you will need to quit and open the game, otherwise you'll see very smeary visuals and blurry visuals, which is not the experience that you'd want to have from a game like this, or from any game for that matter, on this particular laptop. Now, aside from that, if you turn the preset down from RT overdrive, the prior two settings were RT overdrive down to ultra, you can see here that with frame generation we're getting well above 60 FPS in terms of the actual playable frame rates, and the game looks fantastic. The frame rates are smooth. This is of course with just traditional frame generation. If we switch over and make use of the 4x generation, this one here is with 4x frame generation. The multi-frame generation is the highlight feature of DLSS 4 and the RTX 5000 series, and it's exclusive to the RTX 5000 series. We do get a doubling of frame rate, and what must be noted is that the gameplay is very smooth. The visuals they look like it's been G-Sync enhanced and taken to the next level. Despite what people might say, I think that frame generation and multi-frame generation is doing a great job wherever it is supported. And we'll take a look at a few other games here. We'll see here that this is Shadow of the Tomb Raider with all of the maximum setting, set to the highest preset, including a ray trace shadows turned on and DLSS set to quality mode. We're seeing here about 70 FPS roughly as we go through the game. The frame rate will toggle a little bit, but well above the 60 FPS. And if we look at our frame times, they're nice and smooth, so we're going to get some excellent gameplay experience here, and gaming on this thing is going to be a blast. So the RTX 5000 does bring more stable frame rates, and considering that we're actually getting 100 watts almost consistently across the RTX 5000 series, or particularly the 5070 GPU here. The 5050, 5060, and 5070 had, or excuse me, the 4050, 4060, and 4070 had issues with the debacle of voltage and current limits, etc. Here we're seeing well above 100 watts plus on the 5070, which is consistent and nice to see. Despite that, the overall change to the actual frame rate and performance is a little bit less than you would have expected, but it's very much in line with 5060 and 5070 being perhaps a 10% difference. And to demonstrate multi-frame generation a little bit more with DLSS, let's play Hogwarts Legacy here. This is one of the games that supports DLSS frame generation and multi-frame generation as well. It also has the latest DLSS support as well. So this is a good game to show off this particular feature. So as you can see here, we'll pop up the on-screen display, and let's see, we're running at about 191 FPS. Of course, this is everything ultra, so we'll just pop into the settings here and we'll show you. So you can see how this game is running. If we go over to graphics settings, everything here is ultra. For now, I've got ray tracing turned off because we do hit that VRAM limit of 8 gigabytes on the 5070 as well if we choose to turn on ray tracing. However, if we go into the window mode here, or the window settings, we can see that we've got 1600p resolution, DLSS is set to balanced, and we have multi-frame generation set to 4x. We can crank this up a little bit further by setting this to DLSS quality. Should give us better visuals, but it will of course impact the frame rates as well. So we'll do toggle between a few different settings here. This game engine works pretty well and it behaves pretty smoothly, so this should be a good way for us to demonstrate. So we can see here we're down to about 165 or 175 frames per second in this particular game here with the multi-frame generation set to 4x. Now what we'll do is we'll hop back in and let's go to our settings here. We'll turn down the frame generation now from 4x to 2x, because you can see here we can turn it either off, 2x, 3x, or 4x. So if we go back to 2x, which is similar to what you would have gotten with just frame generation, the OG frame generation from DLSS 3.5 and beyond. And now we'll see here that what is the impact to this. So we can see we're still getting very, very good frame rates here at about 125 frames per second. I mean, this is certainly no slouch. To be able to play this, you're not going to max out the 240 hertz of this display, but 125 frames per second for an RPG like this is fantastic. Everything looks buttery smooth and there's zero frame stutter whatsoever. That's one of the things that I'm finding that multi-frame generation is doing, and perhaps it's just my perception or it's just in selected games, but when I do set it to 4x, I get there is zero, and I mean absolutely zero perception of screen tearing or juddering or whatsoever. Now there may be some texture popping and stuff because this game obviously has very high quality textures as well, but the gameplay experience is very smooth. I don't think I've seen a gameplay experience with frame generation this smooth. And if you look at the curve here, or rather the graph for the frame time, this thing is as flat as can be. So that means this thing is pumping through that GPU, and we're getting 100% usage there, hitting right up against that 86-degree thermal junction temperature and about 100 watts to that GPU. So now we'll turn on ray tracing. Perhaps they've updated the game so it doesn't need to be restarted when we do that. Prior generations or prior updates required that you toggle on. Ray tracing is on, reflections on, shadows on, occlusion on, and we'll set everything to ultra. So let's see, yeah, it needs to be restarted. So let's come back here after we've restarted the game, and then we'll check what the impact is with 2x, 3x, and 4x for frame generation with multi-frame gen and the latest DLSS. Okay, back after a quick restart here, so we'll hop into our settings. We've got ultra, everything turned on, and ray tracing also. All of the ray trace features here are on and set to ultra as well. Our windowed mode is the same. DLSS is now set to quality. We're going to start off actually with frame generation at 2x. Let's see how well this game can handle with the 5070 and ray traced. So this will be a good indication to see if there's been a significant performance bump up in terms of ray tracing, at least from the RTX 4000 to the 5000 generation. I know that this isn't extensive or exhaustive testing, but this should give us a very good idea of where the 5070 stands. So the gameplay here is certainly smooth, 2x frame generation. You can See here that there was a little bit of texture pop in. So let's check in our frame rates. So we're now hovering right above 60 FPS, and we look at our frame times here. They've certainly tripled. We were looking at about 6 or 7 milliseconds for frame times without ray tracing, and now they've around 16, 17, close to 18 milliseconds for frame times. Still very good though. The graph is a little bit more bumpy than I'd like to see for frame time, but this is very playable indeed. Let's hop in now and see what the magic of 4x DLSS and frame generation can do. So we'll go into our settings. Let's hop over to Window, and we'll toggle this all the way up to 4x. There's really no point in 3x. I don't understand why you wouldn't just go all the way to 4x. Alas, it is what it is. I mean, if you choose to do that, I guess you could. So okay, that's a lot better now. So with this, let's jump on our boomstick and fly around a little bit. So this is generally a good way to test if, because there's a lot more texture loading that has to happen. And yeah, it looks pretty smooth. There is no frame tearing or stuttering whatsoever. And this is not a G-Sync display per se. We've got 104 FPS, looks fantastic. And ray traced everything. So very good. Let's hop over to Hogwarts Castle. Once we fly through the lights there, perhaps that'll dip the frame rates a little bit. 113, 114 frames per second is fantastic. Let's see, we're getting right at about, well, we're getting a little bit of a, okay, there we go. There's the lighting. So now we can see here, still very smooth, but the frame times are, jumping around a little bit. Oh, there's a little bit of stutter there. Probably texture pop in, perhaps. Let's see if we can head down into Hogwarts Arena, into the yard. Okay, so overall, I think this game looks fantastic. So I think that's really all I have to show off for frame generation. Frame generation 4x is absolutely fantastic. If you're looking to get an RTX 5000, or perhaps you've been waiting and skipped the 4000 generation, now would certainly be a time to buy to leverage all that DLSS has to offer. The DLSS quality itself has improved significantly, and of course 4x frame generation really allows you to boost those frame rates to significantly high numbers, so we can start to see a very good gameplay in pretty much all games that support it. Speaking of value proposition and pricing, the Legion 5 always has done very well over the last few years and continues to be a great value and a budget-oriented offering. It's going to be a very popular laptop this year as well. Looking at the US pricing, it's about $1,700. Keep in mind, Lenovo always runs sales across their website, so please keep an eye out for those deals. And if you look at the Canadian version, $2,284 is the current pricing of the 5060 equipped model. 5070 equipped offerings are available, but that's the highest GPU that you can configure with the Legion 5. Alright, conclusion time. So, what do I think of the Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025 with the 5070 and multi-frame generation? Well, I can tell you wherever it's supported, it's a fantastic feature to have. It really does, make the frame rate smoother. And it's not just that, but it makes it, it removes a lot of the judder and jitter that you would see with other gameplay effects as well. Now you can see here I'm playing Clear Obscure Expedition 33. It is starting to lag a little bit here, but I'm not really sure what's happening there. Perhaps a memory issue? That's very odd that I would see something like that. Maybe just buffering in the actual textures here as I'm loading this off of an external SSD. But as we can see here, very smooth gameplay and frame rate. Otherwise, 70 FPS, 75, 80 FPS on high settings here. Of course, this game is pretty taxing. It's got some great visuals. You should check out this game if you haven't done so. But overall, if you use the custom mode to tweak some of the settings a little bit more, to bring some of those thermals down, as I'm sure undoubtedly many of you have noticed, that this machine runs a little bit hot. We're seeing 100 C temperatures on the CPU package, and of course, high temperatures hitting that thermal throttling temperature on the GPU as well. So with playing with the custom mode and tweaking the power settings a little bit, you should be easily able to reduce that down a little bit further and play in a custom mode. Right now I'm saying, you can see here with the red Lenovo Legion ring here, that I'm playing actually in the performance mode. You can of course also toggle it to a custom mode, which is what I have here with full fan speeds. Full fans, and of course you can play in the silent mode as well, which will drastically reduce the power to that GPU. But What's very interesting here is that its gameplay is actually possible with with running in the silent mode, as you'll see here when the fans quiet down. So I think overall the RTX 5000 brings a pretty convincing argument. If you look at it year on year, it's really not that big of a improvement in terms of performance increase. But if you were, say, coming from the 20 generation or the 30 series RTX GPUs and you're looking to get a new laptop, then this is going to be an absolutely fantastic buy, particularly with that multi-frame generation tech. It's already supported in 100 plus games and will continue to expand. Nvidia has great mind share and market share, so that will expand much more quickly than we think. And I think it's going to be a great buy overall for everybody. So, look out for the deals that Lenovo has on their store, on their website. You're going to be able to snag a very good deal on the 5070 equipped Lenovo Legion 5 for 2025. All right, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click that thumbs up button, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when there's new content available here. And if you're planning to buy this PC or any other things that I review on my channel here, please check the links in the description below. I try to find discount codes for you and help you save some money wherever possible. And if you want to help even more, you can buy me a coffee down below, and the links are in the description. It's one of the best ways to help keep this channel going. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.